Good afternoon. Live from the center court of the Brightlands Camelot campus, I warmly welcome you in the world of the Brightlands Materials Center. That's a world of scientific excellence, of passion and dedication to develop innovative material solutions for a sustainable future. It is great to have you here, and I can promise you we have a lot in store for you this afternoon. Unfortunately, we do meet online, but you know, ladies and gentlemen, that's what it is these days. Yes, maybe you think that you can lean back and just follow the program at ease. No. That is not what we do expect from you this afternoon. What we do require even is a very positive attitude, an active attitude. And that's why I'm going to introduce to you my co-host, that is Margot Zegers. She will explain exactly what she wants you to do. My name is Simon van Trier. I will be hosting you through this afternoon, and that's a great honor for me. But first of all, we will go to Margot. She will explain, as said, what she expects from you to do. But before you do so, Margot, please tell us some more about yourself.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Margot Zegers, and I work as a scientist in the additive manufacturing team at Brightlands Materials Center. In today's event, my role will be to try and connect you, our online viewers, to our guest speakers and colleagues here in the studio. Therefore, I will ask you for your opinion or your personal experience through interactive poll questions. And also, you have the opportunity to ask questions to our guests here at the table via our chat function. Because it's probably not possible for all of your questions to be answered directly live here in this session, we ask you kindly to also leave your email address with your question so that I can ask any remaining questions to my colleagues to be answered after the event. And now we kick off with our first interactive poll question. It's an easy one. It's for us to get to know you a little bit better. And therefore, we like to know from you for which kind of organization you work. So our question is, in what type of organization do you work? And we have a little bit of a delay in the broadcast of approximately 20 seconds. So sometimes we need a little bit of patience before we can actually see the question or response. There it is. In what type of organization do you work? Do you work in an industrial organization, a governmental organization? Maybe you work in a research institute, or maybe in an educational institute, or you're a student. Please pick the answer that suits you best. And like I already mentioned, we need a little bit of patience before we can see. There it is. Nice to see that we have quite a mixed audience. I see no educational people, so no students, I guess. A lot of people from the industry, some people from the government, some people in research. And well, welcome everybody. And I hope we can continue now with our second question. Maybe we need a little bit more time. I guess we need a few seconds more. There it is. This second question relates to a theme that is very important to Brightlands Materials Center, sustainability, taking good care of our planet. These are all drivers, the main drivers in the research of Brightlands Materials Center. And therefore, we would also like to hear from you what things you already do in your own life to improve the climate situation. So our question is, which adjustments did you already make? This could be some kind of home improvement, such as the installation of PV modules, or maybe you improved the insulation of your home. This could be the reduction of your fossil fuel use, so maybe you try to travel less by airplane or travel less by a non-electric car. Maybe you already separate your household waste, which is of course a very common thing to do in the Netherlands. Or maybe you reduced your meat consumption. Let's see if we can already see some response. Yes, there they are. Well, that's a very pleasant outcome, actually. very positive. I see that a lot of you already are trying to make improvements in their home and using their car or an airplane less. Also, like I think we already expected, a lot of us are separating the waste. Well, that's a very positive message, I think. And on that note, I give the word back to Simone.
Thank you so very much, Margot. And with me here at my table, a warm welcome to two of you, Managing Directors from the Brightlands Materials Center, Marnix van Gulp and Peter Wolfs. Good to see you both. Now tell me, Marnix, the two of you gave a title to this event. It was Think, Act. Now I do wonder, Marnix, what's the most difficult part, to think or to act?
I think the most difficult is to combine the two. Of course, as Margot already said, we are very much focused on sustainability in our programs. Yeah. And Think, Act, of course, reflects Think Global, Act Local, already introduced long ago at the climate conference in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. Yeah. But obviously, it's also think first and then act. But you cannot do the one without the other. Don't act without thinking. Don't think without acting.
Yeah, great. But what do you expect from this title for this afternoon?
Well, I think it's twofold, of course. On the one hand, we're very proud of what we have achieved with Brightlands Materials Center. We like to share that with you. And of course, it relates very much to this topic, Think, Act, because we have been doing a lot of thinking, and we like to present also what we've really achieved and what we intend to bring to the market. But of course, it's also to connect with you all at home, because you all are working in the same field. And we also like to connect with you with our programs and with your challenges in the field.
Yeah, great. Peter, despite the limitations of COVID-19, you really insisted in organizing this partner event. Why is it so important for you?
Well, it's important to reach out and to be connected to our partners, and obviously we like to do that here, and that you can show everything in live situation. But I believe that we have a good alternative in this way, and to hope to have a lot of interactions with Margot and therefore with us at the table here.
Yes, and then with the audience. Now, we did see that there is a great representation from the industry, governments, research institutes. That's what you expected, I suppose, but give us some words. Who are the partners of the Brightlands Materials Center?
Well, those are partners from industry, but also research partners. Partners from industry are from, let's say, bigger global companies, but also local companies or small and medium-sized enterprises. And it's very good that also there we try to play a connecting role in between these type of companies and also in the value chain that we're active in and for.
Yeah, great. Marnix, maybe a good idea at the start of this partner event to give us a short wrap-up of the history of the Materials Center.
Yes, actually we don't exist that long. We started 6 years ago, around this time, and at that time it was only one person that started, and now we have grown to about 35 people. And then we didn't have any facilities at all, but we have now grown into pretty big facility organization with lots of infrastructure and people and expertise.
Yeah. So in 6 years' time, you achieved quite a thing.
I think so, yeah. I think you'll see today in all the things that we will show and our showcases that we have achieved quite some very interesting innovations that we are about to bring to the market. So, yeah, we're very proud of that, and we are willing to share with you.
Yeah, because how do you do this? I mean, in 6 years' time, you start with that just one person without facilities whatsoever, and then within 6 years' time, you have developed quite a number of innovative solutions.
Yes, it started, of course, with ambition, an ambition that was both from the province of Limburg and our very important partner here, and from TNO, because From TNO side, we work on these topics that are relevant for society, and but we also believe that to do that in ecosystems, and we recognize also the ambition of the province of Limburg to maintain, let's say, a high level knowledge intensive working environment here in the province, and to stimulate the economic activities. And that's where those ambitions meet. And then you start on the basis of competences that you have, and that you look in what are the real challenges and how to connect to the industry and to form programs that actually can achieve this improvement in these applications.
Yeah, because how would you describe the role of TNO here within this center, in this campus?
Well, of course, we bring in a lot of technology and competences, and also from the start we brought in equipment that we use to do those research topics. But that's and to connect the people that we all have within TNO on lots of different types of competences. But sometimes a little part can be very crucial in connecting. So yeah, we have some examples that we can show later
on,
where
yes.
we can talk about that further.
That's what we will do. And maybe in the meantime, first of all, we will have, because you just made a corporate video about the Brightlands Materials Center, and I think you really did a great job by making this, and we are going to watch to this corporate video from the Brightlands Materials Center. Watch this.
We all know what we need to do. Or do we? Less travel by car, lesser air traffic, energy neutral buildings, recycle plastic waste. But will this really result in CO2 reductions and secure the well-being of generations to come? Europe agreed to be CO2 neutral by 2050. This means that the transport sector needs to move away from fossil fuels and completely switch to electric vehicles. The packaging industry wants to introduce 100% recyclable or renewable packaging by 2025, just years from now. How will we do this? At Brightlands Materials Center, our focus now is on tomorrow's solutions. We believe that the use of materials can and must be sustainable and circular. That's why we're working on innovative solutions every single day in our labs. In the world of buildings, for transport, and for packaging. If we replace plastics with our other materials, energy consumption will double, and CO2 emissions will actually increase as a result. That's why we believe in a radical switch to circular plastics, by designing packaging differently, and by considering waste for a source of new and sustainable products. Over the past years, we have worked with passion and dedication in our Brightlands Materials Center labs. For instance, we developed smart windows. The application of switchable coatings on glass enables us to reduce CO2 emissions by 40%. In cars, we support replacing heavy steel with sustainable, recyclable, lightweight, and extremely strong composites, which also result in CO2 emission reductions. We are also supporting the packaging industry to develop fully recyclable packaging, which accelerates circular plastic use. We are doing this by using the unique properties of plastic materials, by making them work for us, for our nature, for our climate, and for a better living environment for us all. And this has impact for us and generations to come. We think, we act. We are Brightlands Materials Center.
Now, Marnix, this reflects perfectly what you are.
Yeah, it's a very nice film indeed. It tells the story. There's great challenges to meet in society. And we have a lot of materials expertise, so yeah, we like.
And there's not that much time left. I mean, I do hear you saying in the film 2025, packaging should be fully circular,
Absolutely,
renewable,
absolutely.
recyclable.
Absolutely. There's a great urgency to really redesign the packaging industry in general, not just the packages itself, but the whole value chain.
Yeah.
And we have short time.
How does all the themes mentioned in your beautiful movie, how does it relate to the program we will have this afternoon?
Well, you'll be seeing nice examples of all of these innovations. Of course, we cannot solve all of the issues, but we have a couple of very inspiring examples where we show how we can support with our materials expertise to these great challenges.
Yeah, okay, that's what we will see in a moment. But first, Margot, I would like to jump to you because you announced the audience can provide questions. Did they do so?
Yes, indeed, they did.
Great.
We have a few questions. And let's start off with a slightly critical one. I think this is a nice one for Manix. And the question is, instead of making plastics more sustainable, shouldn't we just try to get rid of plastics at all?
Ah, that's a nice one. Rid of the plastics.
Well, I think it's maybe fair to say that plastics have brought us a lot of good things. I think in many of the applications we use, plastics have really been a solution. As simple as a household waste bag, or a container to do our dishes, or a drill, or the circuit breakers in your closet, or your mobile phone consists of a lot of plastic. So a lot of welfare and new possibilities have been introduced with plastics. But it's also good to say that in some cases we have gone too far. We have to be very critical and careful and maybe critically look how to do this better, because the amount of waste reducing from plastic packaging is not acceptable, and we have to come up with a solution to solve this.
Yeah. Nice first question, huh? More questions?
Yes, we have another one. I think this one is maybe more of a discussion-like question. And the question is, do you believe technological innovation offers the solution to global warming, or do you think the solution lies in human behavior?
Oh, Peter?
I think it's actually both, because only having a very good technology, if it's not being used or implemented properly, then it will not work. And also, I guess that you should help human behavior, but human behavior is necessary. So if we can work on nice technical solutions for packaging, but then again, if you want to make it circular, these packages also needs to come back to the source.
Does it cross your mind when you are researching and developing in the lab what human behavior
that we take
adds
into account?
Okay.
And that's even getting more important to look at a systemic point of view at those things. So not only on a very technological way, but also how will it be used and what will be the impact? And what will be the impact if not used properly, etc. All those kind of things you have to take into account, and that can adjust the vision on what you need to do technically.
What you bring as a solution.
Yes,
great. Now, great. I do see that we have Paul de Krom with us, CEO from TNO. Delighted to have you here. Thank you so much for being with us, Paul. We could say that TNO, well, you do play as a knowledge institute, I could say maybe even a key role when it comes to optimally prepare the Netherlands for the future social development. We know that TNO wants to play a pioneer role, wants to have impact on society and industry. That leads me to the question, what was it that made TNO decide to start a location in Limburg back in 2015?
Well, for all the reasons you just mentioned yourself, of course. First of all, let me say that I'm very honored to be here this afternoon, and hopefully next year there will be the opportunity again to attend the event physically. But yeah, we decided in 2015 to start investing in the developments in Limburg. And why is that? Because the Camelot site, the Brightlands Camelot campus, of course, is an extremely important site, a chemical site in the Netherlands. And there's a lot of energy with the local government, with the province, with local industry, and also with other knowledge partners such as the University of Maastricht and the Hogeschool Zuid, to initiate new initiatives in the areas of designing new materials, in designing new energy processes, and to decarbonize the site. So if you combine all that, there's an ideal ecosystem in the area locally, which makes it extremely interesting to participate in that and to invest in that. And of course, the purpose of TNO primarily is to support the grand societal challenges, those big transitions such as energy and climate, but combine that at the same time with increasing the earning power of industry. And that's exactly why it is so interesting for us as well to be involved in Brightlands Materials Center and at the site itself.
Yeah, and what would you say, where does your strategy, so TNO strategy, does meet the ambitions of the province of Limburg?
Oh, I would say it's extremely obvious. As I said, TNO is dedicated, which is actually in our mission, to facilitate these, grand societal challenges, these transitions, for instance, in the areas of energy and climate change. And at the same time, we want to increase the earning power of the industry, and that is exactly what's happening here. So with all sorts of new innovations, we not only contribute to resolving those big transitions, facilitate them, but also increase the earning power of industry and the competitiveness of industry in the Netherlands. As you know, we're not a university. We're translating, as it were, scientific concepts into innovative, practical solutions, both for government and for industry. And here we have an ecosystem that is, well, I would say, ideally suited to make it happen. And there's a lot of energy in the region, from the local government to industry to SMEs as well, because SMEs will play a much more important role in the future. So it's exciting to be involved in here. There's a lot of energy, and let me also say this. I do not believe in short-term innovation projects. If you want to create impact, if you want to make a difference longer term, you have to be involved long-term as well. So we're here to stay. Let me put it this way as well. We're here for the long run. Otherwise, it won't make any sense.
Well, I can imagine that it's something you like to hear, that this is what it is, Marnix and Peter. It's a long-term investment, of course. And Paul, you know that the regional minister of the province of Limburg, he would have been here, Ruud Burlet, but there are quite some turbulent political events, if I could say it that way. So we feel very sorry that he's not with us here. But for them as well, I think that's also what counts. You need that long-term dedication and commitment also from a province, a regional government to really get and set the goals.
Absolutely, and that's why it works so well as far as we are concerned, because the province of Limburg is very active, has been a very proactive partner for us, and so has the industry. In Limburg, and therefore, if there is so much energy to make this all happen, then it will happen. And what has been achieved over the past 6 years, I think it's quite remarkable. And I think, if we continue this partnership with industry, with local government, with knowledge institutions such as University Maastricht, Hogeschool Zuid, and ourselves, I am absolutely convinced that if we continue to push for this, that we can make it an example not only in the Netherlands but in Europe at large.
Yeah, great. Just one final question. Today, of course, we do emphasize on the innovations, material-based solutions. Now, how would you describe the role of the Brightlands Materials Centers when it comes to those innovative material solutions within the Netherlands and maybe even Europe?
Well, I mean, if you want to make a difference on the outside market, you have to combine knowledge, not only from knowledge institutions, but also from industry, physically almost in one place, because then you exchange ideas and, that creates a lot of energy. So what we're doing in TNO, just as an example, we defined, let me put it this way, centers of excellence in different domains, throughout the Netherlands. And for materials and energy, you know, Geleen is and Limburg is let's say is absolutely key. In other areas of our portfolio, we try to organize the same, but on different topics, of course. So, yeah, I'm absolutely convinced that we have to combine those knowledge and that energy and those investments almost physically into one place and, you know, build a platform, an ecosystem, which can then relate to similar ecosystems throughout Europe as well. And only then, if we do that, we will be able to make an impact internationally, because, of course, you know, the energy challenge and the climate change challenge doesn't stop at the borders. So we have to across the borders as well. But first we have to create a strong ecosystem ourselves in order to be able to do that. And that's exactly what's happening in Limburg. So I'm extremely enthusiastic about it.
Well, thank you so very, very much for your kind contribution. Paul de Krom, CEO from TNO. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Wonderful. Well, that's a wonderful contribution, isn't it, Peter?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, this is what it is. This is what we are building here at this campus.
Absolutely, yeah.
Great. Marnix, thank you so much for now. I would like to jump to the first showcase of this afternoon, if that's okay with you. And then we will meet later, and maybe Peter, you will stay with me, because then we will discuss what will happen. Just stay for one moment, because first of all, dear attendees, we will go to that additive manufacturing, 100% Limburg bike, and we are going to meet Richard Jans. He's the business developer, additive manufacturing, and he takes the floor and will pitch, after a small video, the 100% Limburg bike.
Did you know that mobility and transport are the second largest cause for CO2 emissions in Europe? That of course includes aeroplanes, but also cars and transport vehicles. What can we do to reduce those emissions? We can use lighter materials. We can make the vehicles lighter. So for example, if we look at this bracket from an airplane, typically made from metal, relatively heavy. If I 3D print this with a composite, I can save weight. But if I 3D print, I can also change its shape and reduce further weight. And I can go even further. I can optimize the shape and make something that is 20 to 30% in weight from the original bracket. If you do that for all airplanes and for the whole aerospace sector, and for our cars and transport vehicles, we can have a major impact on the CO2 emissions of the mobility and the transport sector.
Hi, I would like to show you this showcase, which is an example of a 3D printed, strong and lightweight 3D printed composites. It's a prototype racing bike, and it's made in a consortium of companies and associations in this region supported by the European Union and OP Zuid. And the idea of the project is to make a custom racing bike which fits to the person that's going to use it. That means when I'm going to use it and I have a little bit longer arms, I need to have a frame that's a little bit longer. That means I need to make this tube a little bit longer in the bike. If I am a little bit shorter, I need the frame to be a little bit shorter. So to do that, it's relatively easy by modifying the pipes in here, but I also need to modify the connecting lugs in the frame. And I do that by 3D printing, because that's a very flexible technology, and for one bike, I just need one set of unique lugs. So how do we do that? We print with a continuous carbon fiber inside of these lugs. And in fact, this is a quite new and unique technology that we are helping to develop, which allows us to print continuous fibers, like carbon, but also metal or glass or even Kevlar, inside of a thermoplastic part. And this thermoplastic carbon fiber part is a composite, and basically it's very lightweight because of the plastic, but it's also very strong because of the continuous fiber. So this new technology creates a lot of opportunities, especially for the composites market, because it brings a number of advantages that currently are not possible in the composites manufacturing markets. So first of all, look at this shape. With this technology, we can make very complex and intricate shapes, freeform, which is very hard to do with any other composite manufacturing technology. Secondly, if you look at existing manufacturing technologies in composites, it's often a manual type of job. It takes a lot of labor to do. 3D printing is completely automated. And basically, this helps the industry to digitalize its manufacturing. And the last point I want to make is that also with 3D printing of composites, you can print just one part. Maybe you need a spare part for your bike, you can just print that one part that you need. Cost effectively, also small series if you want to make some smaller parts. Okay, so what does this technology help us with? And what kind of other applications then, for example, racing bikes can we think of? Now, mobility, of course. Lightweight, very important, because you reduce mass, it reduces the amount of fuel, it reduces the carbon emissions that vehicles are emitting. But also think of biomedical type of applications, where you need a brace, or maybe you need an exoskeleton to help you carry a strong load. 3D printing with composites can help. It's comfortable, because it's close to the body, it's the shape of the body, it's lightweight, and it is strong, so it helps you to carry the mass. So applications that we're looking at are, for example, brackets for aeroplanes, drones, urban mobility, but also electrical vehicles. Think about the small electrical vans that are bringing our groceries that we are ordering online at the moment. So those are the applications that we're looking at. What are we doing as Brightlands Materials Center? We are developing the right materials. We are optimizing the technology to optimize the carbon fiber layout in these kind of parts, and we're developing computer models to predict the design of these parts. And I think with that, this prototype is a very good example of this technology, showing the strength and the lightweight of carbon continuous fiber-based composites. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard Jansen, for this great presentation. And with me, in the meantime, welcome Tessa Tenkate. You are Senior Scientist and Program Manager, Additive Manufacturing. So, we are going to improve the world by improving a bike.
Well, yes, that's a start. But of course, we want to think bigger beyond the bike. The bike we take as a test case to show that we can really make strong parts that can hold a person riding a bike. But beyond that, we will think of bigger vehicles, like Richard said, so thinking of trucks and especially airplanes, where weight is really essential in the fuel that they use.
That they use, for sure, and the emissions they provoke.
Of course.
But I can imagine it is very important to have an object that people will understand what you are doing. A bike, that's very well thought of you, because everybody understands Richard's story. That's on purpose, that you say it will be a bike? Just to make it clear to the world what we are doing?
Yeah, well, it's a nice showcase, but of course we also work with industry. So in this project we are working with a group of regional small and medium enterprises to work on this, so that we can also, when it's a success, we can help the companies around us here in the region to make this a success also commercially.
Yeah. Now Richard, he was talking about 3D printing. Now 3D printing in itself equals not specifically circularity or sustainability, does it?
Well, it's a production method for a polymer material, but the benefits of the 3D printing are many. There are many applications or many advantages that can help circularity or sustainability. So first of all, what we are targeting with these components is weight reduction. I said that already. So if you think of the freedom, the shape freedom that 3D print brings to your product, you can design your product in such a way that it can hold the same weight while being 60% lighter in weight.
Yeah.
And for example, if you do that in an airplane, if you save 1 kilo of weight, that can already save hundreds of liters of kerosene a year.
It's amazing, yeah. But also on a smaller scale, I can imagine that you do not need to have that much in store if you can print it just at the time you need a product.
That's true, and also the logistics that comes with it. So the transport of a part, so if you can print it locally, that means it doesn't need to come all the way to come there. And that can be an advantage in terms of the transport cost and also CO2 emissions that you save, but also if you are in a region or in a place where it's difficult to reach. So if you are on sea, for example, or in a remote location, it's very important that you can print it there and save all the trouble of getting your part in there in time.
Yeah. And even better if you then also use local materials.
Yes.
From local, maybe waste chains even.
Yeah. You can think of PET bottles, for example. Water bottles are a very good source of material.
Sky is the limit.
Definitely.
How exciting is your job?
Well, I love it. Yeah, it's good to see everything new that we can make and to see how we can really make a difference and talk to companies who want to implement this, to use their materials in a new 3D printing process or to have an application really in hand. It's very, what brings me the joy in my job is to talk to these people and see what are their dreams and how we can support this to make it happen.
It's an important job. Now, Peter, I know that for the Dutch Defense Department, you also do work or you have relationship. Tell us more.
Yes, so TNO, by history and by purpose, is also a partner for the Ministry of Defense and Research. So we have a lot of relationships with defense and defense industry, but in that sense, Brightlands Materials Center also works on topics for the defense, and also here the ecosystem has a relationship with defense, and that is where it also comes together, and that's a very nice and good thing. And that's also what we can bring here to this ecosystem, the relationship and the knowledge that we have for applications that, as the example also says, if you need spare parts when you're on a mission or at sea and you need certain parts, you can print it there in those remote locations, and that can be of very high importance for carrying out the mission.
On all circumstances, that's for sure. Yeah. Margot, do we have questions from our audience?
We actually do. Let's start with a slightly technical question. Kees is asking, these continuous carbon fiber composites are close to impossible to recycle. How do you intend to make this circular?
That's definitely a good question. So, when you look at composites, indeed recycling is an important issue. What is important to note is that we work with thermoplastic composites, which are much more easily recyclable than the traditional thermoset composites that are very difficult to reuse. We've also recently started a project where we actually look at using used thermoplastic composites as a new input source for 3D printing, and have shown that we can successfully print this material and really make strong parts out of this.
Okay. Nice question, Kees. Thanks.
Yeah, we have actually several more questions, but I think we have room to answer one more, and this is from Wilbert. And Wilbert would like to know how economically feasible is it to use this technology for mass production?
That's also a very good question. It depends, of course, what you mean with mass production. I think you cannot easily, as of today, you cannot easily make millions of parts in a very short time. But we are targeting parts that are really high quality. Composite parts also they are made in a very expensive way. So especially if you talk about composite part, it's a cost competitive method with other methods that are available for composites. And also, many people think, well, one printer cannot print a lot, but if you look in a factory, there are these days already factories that print parts. They just have a lot of these printers available to make sure that they get the parts they want. And what they do have the advantage of what is so-called mass customization. You can really change your part to be fit exactly. So you can, one of the examples we worked on in the past, for example, is printing dental crowns to replace a tooth. These are always more or less the same product, but every time slightly different because it needs to fit a certain person, and this technology is very fit for that. And if we talk about the brackets, for example, for aerospace, so for airplane applications, we're not talking about 1 million parts a year. These are several hundreds of parts a year for which this is a very good technology.
Yeah. And then mass, it depends on how you define what it does mean. Yes,
definitely.
But again, good question. Maybe a little one.
A little one?
Yeah.
Let's see. Yes, we have a little one, but maybe the answer is not that little. But
we'll see.
The question is: was additive manufacturing not just a hype that is already past its peak?
Oh, oof, that you asked to a program manager? You passed your peak. Ooh.
Well, I think you can actually say that the hype has passed its peak, but that's because the technology has matured. So a couple of years ago, I think everybody saw 3D printing as the thing for the future that would solve all of the world's problems. And now we come to a more mature situation in which we see where it can help, and in which cases maybe another method is better. And now you can really see that 3D printing is a solution that has been implemented in factories already. It's already been used quite a lot, for example, to make production tools, to help people work faster and work more accurately with the tools they have. Yeah, efficient and personalized tools, for example, and now you see the first real parts coming in place. So parts that are in use, so for not in production tools, but really in components of a part. And now also the requirements, the needs for the mechanical requirements, that these are coming higher. So now we need to make still improvements to make sure that we can reach the expectations that were set a couple of years ago.
So no question, no doubt, it's not a hype, it's here to stay.
It's here to stay, but
That's
it has
what
its
you say.
purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A final word, maybe, Peter, on additive manufacturing?
No, that's what it is, I guess, from a hype to get more to realistic cases. And so we become more specialized in acting in a realistic way. And maybe years ago, we all, the whole society was thinking actually still that would be the solution for everything.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Peter, we will meet later on in the program. And before I'm going to introduce the second showcase to you, I kindly invite you to a virtual lab tour. And of course, we would have done this in person, but we said this is what it is. So that's why we come up with a virtual tour in the lab of Brightlands Materials Center. You're welcome.
Dear viewers, we are in building 220 at the Brightlands campus. This building houses part of the offices and the labs of Brightlands Materials Center. I would like to invite you on a short lab tour to get a look behind the scenes and learn more about Brightlands Materials Center lab facilities. Hi Bastiaan.
Hi Margot.
I was wondering, can you tell them a little bit about yourself and what's your role within the additive manufacturing program?
Sure. My name is Bastiaan. I work in the additive manufacturing group as a research engineer. I have a background in material science, and for about 7 years I'm working on the topic of additive manufacturing. Within the Brightlands Materials Center I started mainly on thermoset-based materials for dental applications, but currently we expanded to basically any polymeric additive manufacturing technique.
Interesting. And what are you working on right now?
Currently, I'm maintaining and cleaning one of our additive manufacturing machines. We do a lot with continuous carbon fibers, and we have several printers for these. This one more specifically is related to the sensing application we try to develop. This allows us, with our custom tool, to make a printed part which has a sensing functionality in it. That is actually one of our demonstrators related to sensing. There are 3 beams there. They all have a sensor in it, but you can press some of them, and then you can see the response of the signal on the screen.
There it is. That's great. Thanks, Bastiaan.
You're welcome.
I will leave you to your work right now.
Okay, have a nice day.
We are now one door further in one of the Sustainable Buildings labs. Hi, Janique.
Hi.
Could you please introduce yourself and tell a little bit more about your role in the Sustainable Buildings team?
Yes, I'm Janique and I have a background in both chemical engineering and bio-based materials. Together with the team, we are working on smart solid control coatings and pigments for energy-efficient glazing in buildings. We are developing smart windows, which are able to block infrared light in summer and transmit it in winter. In this way, a constant temperature can be maintained in the building, thereby decreasing energy consumption and reducing CO2 emissions. Well, I just filled this quartz tube with our synthesized starting material, and I'm going to thermally treat this powder in the rotating tube furnace so that it will get its desired properties and purity. If you want, you can follow me to the furnace. In this device, we crystallize our material at high temperatures, and due to the fact that the tube is rotating, the heat distribution will be very good. After the oven procedure, the powder will look like these very sparkling pigments. However, these pigments are still quite big, as you can see, which is of course not desired when applying in glass paints. Therefore, we use a bead milling device to reduce the particle size. So in this device, we mill our particles that I previously showed you to nanoscale level, so approximately 100 nanometers. In this size regime, we can make sure that the visual properties of the windows won't be compromised. These particles can then be implemented in polymer films to use in, for example, safety glass. This is such a polymer film. And these polymer films can then be used to laminate glass, such as you see here.
And is this the only application for these pigments?
No, similar pigments can also be applied in solar panels to enhance their efficiency and lifetime. Furthermore, these pigments can also be applied in thermochromic coatings.
Okay, very interesting.
Now, did you enjoy this virtual tour? I think it gives us a great insight, not only how it looks in those labs of the Brightlands Materials Center, but also what they are doing and who's working there. We are meeting the team members of the Materials Center, which is always very nice. And they were talking already about that second important pillar when it comes to buildings, the built environment. So the second showcase we are going to present to you this afternoon is the one from the sustainable buildings, thermochromic coatings, SunSmart. We will have a short video and then you will meet live for a pitch Danielle Mann.
The built environment is responsible for 1/3 of the total global energy usage and CO2 emission, and 50% of that is used to heat and cool buildings. Meeting our climate goals will require better solutions, like affordable windows that save more energy. Energy-efficient windows on the market are most effective in hot or cold climates, but often fall short in climates that vary. Brightlands Materials Center's new smart window is different. The crystal structure of the metal oxide coating and thereby SunSmart's optical properties change at a predefined temperature, preserving heat in the winter and blocking heat in the summer without affecting visible transmission, for a window that saves energy, reduces CO2 emissions, and drastically lowers energy bills. The windows are affordable and highly transparent and offer a return on investment within 7 years. After successful lab-scale testing, pilot-scale prototyping is underway. Commercial production of the SunSmart window is just around the corner. Want to be among the first to offer customers affordable, sustainable, energy-optimized windows? Contact us today to find out how.
As you've just seen in our short animation, our SunSmart technology we developed to show you or to offer you the perfect solution to homeowners in the Netherlands and everywhere where heating and cooling are equally important for a building's energy needs. Our development is focused on 3 major points. So the first is reducing energy consumption in the built environment, which you have just seen in detail in our animation explained. The second one is a constant high transparency and an autonomous switch. So for you as homeowner, that means you don't see anything, you don't have to do anything, and you can just enjoy the increased comfort level and the reduced energy bill. And the third point is offering an affordable solution which does not require any wiring or any special framing, but you can just install it like a regular glass. By focusing on these 3 points, we ensure that we offer a solution which is widely applicable and can become the next standard in the Netherlands and replace HR++ glass. Here you can see a small demonstrator of our SunSmart window. In this demonstrator, in this insulating glass unit, we combine a glass plate which is coated with our thermochromic SunSmart coating with a standard low-E coated glass. And then, in combination with an argon-filled air gap, this yields our high-performance smart window. In the second demonstrator here, you see such an IGU placed into a custom-made frame, which is made by one of our partners, Adrian van Erck Timmerfabrik. But our SunSmart development is not only beneficial for homeowners. No, it can also have a major impact on the total energy consumption CO2 emissions of the built environment. That means that in Europe, Netherlands, and also in Limburg, if our thermochromic window is widely implemented in the built environment, this can lead to energy and CO2 emission savings between 30 and 40%, which would be a major step towards reaching our climate goals. What I show you here today is the first generation of our SunSmart window, and we are currently in running projects with local companies upscaling this technology. So here we are installing a pilot line at our facilities at the Brightlands Camelot campus, which will enable us to produce full-sized windows by the end of 2022. These windows will then be installed in demo buildings and will be tested in real environment, which will be the next step towards commercialization and market introduction of these products. Additionally, we are also developing the SunSmart technology for integration into laminates for safety glass, as my colleague Janique has just shown you during the virtual lab tour. And we are already working on the second and the third generation of SunSmart, which will further increase performance and add additional functionalities to the coating layer. So if you're not interested in this development or other developments of our institute, please follow Brightlands Materials Center on LinkedIn, visit brightlandsmaterialscenter.com, or contact our business developer, Eugene Verkamp. Thank you all for your attention, and please don't hesitate to ask questions in the chat.
Thank you so much, Daniel Mann. What a great presentation you gave as well. And with me here at my table, Pascal Busquets, welcome to you, Program Manager, Sustainable Buildings.
Yes.
You must be a proud man.
A very proud man, yeah, because we are actually in a fortunate position to bring innovations from science, so the very first lab-scale experiments, to applications, or almost applications. As you heard from Daniel, we are already bringing the thermochromic coatings for the windows, for the glass, actually into a pilot-scale production at the moment. So it's really from the beginning to the end, and seeing your products actually make a difference in the end.
Yeah, commercial production is just around the corner, we did learn. Then I do wonder, constructors, housing corporations, are they knocking at your door like, come on, make some speed because we are constructing, we need 1 million houses in the Netherlands, so we better apply these innovations immediately?
Yes, they are, because they need everything actually which is available for them to move towards energy neutral buildings. Because for the future we want to be the built environment, we want to see it as a climate neutral built environment.
Exactly.
That means that it needs to be energy neutral, and that needs a lot of different solutions. So that needs photovoltaics on one side, and we are also working on these kind of technologies. But it also needs technologies that help you save energy, such as the thermochromic windows, which Daniel presented.
Yeah, great. And also with us, Pascal, you know it, we have Professor Koen Debackere. A warm, warm welcome to you from Belgium. You are online present with us. We know you, of course, in various roles, Professor Debackere, as Professor Technology and Innovation, of course, for a long time, General Manager and member of the board of the KU Leuven, and very much involved as Managing Director of the KU Leuven Research and Development. I could say maybe the transfer organization of the university in Leuven. Mr. Debackere, we are talking about regional ecosystems, and I would like to invite you to give us a, let's say, brief but profound insight in how, well, what does a vivid regional ecosystem look like?
So thank you very much. First of all, I apologize not to be physically present, but COVID rules in Belgium prevent me from being in Maastricht at the moment. But indeed, Simone, as you say, ecosystems are extremely important today. They are important because individual organizations do not suffice at all to bring innovations to the market. You need not just value chains to be active, but you need value networks and value webs to be active in. And ecosystems have been around for a long time, but the last 10, 15, 20 years, they have received increasing policy attention, but also investment attention, because we understand that we need to build those ecosystems, that we need to bring different partners that are complementary to one another together in those value webs. And I think what we've seen with respect to 3D additive manufacturing, sustainable building so far really illustrates that you need to bring different competencies and different players together that are able to cross the boundaries of their individual organizations. Ecosystems are there to help companies and research institutes, what I would call think globally, act locally, but grow globally as well, because you have to be able to work in an international market environment in the end. When we look at those ecosystems, in order for them to thrive, and that's something we have experienced in the Leuven region over the last 20-25 years as well, we need to build upon a number of critical success factors, basic principles that need to support those ecosystems. First of all, it is extremely important that you have an anchor organization or a couple of anchor organizations. I think Brightlands Materials Center is a nice example of an anchor organization, an organization that is able to marshal a lot of other customers, suppliers, even funders around itself. This type of anchor organization, first and foremost, needs to be credible towards its partners. So if you want to build an ecosystem, you have to maximize the game for the partners involved and not just for one partner. And that demands credibility. So that's a first important building block. But the second important building block is to have what we call foundational customers present in the ecosystem, because Brightlands Materials Center is a very important element in bringing different components for innovations together. But in the end, you need customers that want to bring the bicycle that we have seen to the market, that wants to bring it to a market nationally, internationally. Those foundational customers are magnets for the anchor organizations to grow and to build. And in order to do this, an ecosystem needs to share a sense of purpose. And a sense of purpose means that you have to build a roadmap. Where do you want to be in specific areas of application, of research, of knowledge development and innovation? What is the focus you want to strive for? What is the focus you will have in terms of applications and in terms of thematic areas? We've seen two in the showcases so far, and there are more of them, but it's extremely important that this roadmap is there. And then, of course, communication. You need to communicate to your partners and you need to communicate to the outside world that you are that magnet where different competencies, different parts of the value network coalesce and are able to join forces to bring final solutions and problems to the market, whether it's building related, whether it's materials recycling related. They're there and you need them to combine their strengths and their efforts. And last but not least, an ecosystem does not exist in a vacuum. It's extremely important, definitely in a European context, that ecosystems invite partners that are marshalling, building, sustaining ecosystems themselves. So it's good to hear that in the Brightlands Materials Center arena, you're not just looking at the local ecosystem, but you're combining your ecosystem forces with ecosystems outside that ecosystem. Because in the end, we know that in sustainability, we talk about the 3 Ps, people, profit, planet. Well, for ecosystem, I would like to talk about 3 Ps as well. Of course, profit stays present because in the end, you need to create economic value. But it's about protection. It's about making sure that the members of the ecosystem can share and protect their assets and become stronger. And it's about the proposition. The proposition the ecosystem brings to the larger environment, the larger world, so that in the end, you are not just acting locally, but you're able to grow globally. And as far as I'm concerned, those are a number of building blocks that a successful ecosystem has to cherish, has to nurture, and on the basis of which it will be able to thrive. And I think I have been lucky in the sense that I was able to look into and to be a compagnon de route for Brightlands Materials Center and Camelot Campus for many, many years, because we also have quite some interactions between the Leuven ecosystem and the Camelot ecosystem. And I think those building blocks are present, and they are a guarantee for the future development of the Brightlands ecosystem. So that as a number of short, brief reflections on ecosystems and ecosystem development.
Short and brief, Koen Debackere, thank you very much for this. Now, having given us these building blocks, what would you consider as the most delicate?
The most delicate in an ecosystem is what I have called in the beginning credibility. It's making sure that you live up to your expectations. It's also making sure that your partners feel part of the ecosystem, that your partners know that unlike a traditional value chain where you have a lot of bargaining power, where you have pressures throughout the value chain, think about the normal retail value chains, that your partners see that they will have a fair share of the cake. And that's all about credibility. And if you don't manage that type of relationship well, you will lose the strings that bring and pull together the ecosystem. And that's, as far as I'm concerned, one of the most delicate balancing exercises that has to be taken into consideration.
Thank you, thank you. Pascal, please give some reflection on your experience from this side of the ecosystem.
I very much recognize what Professor Debackere said. So for us, it's very important with our product development, technology development to be in this ecosystem. Think about the thermochromic coatings, for example. You need multiple partners. You need a partner who is going to produce the materials, the coating. You need a partner who's going to apply the coating. You need a window manufacturer. You need a glass producer. You need a housing corporation or an architect who is willing to use it. You need a consumer who is willing to accept it and also pay for it. So there needs to be something in it for all of these stakeholders, and you need also all these stakeholders to get these developments actually to a successful commercialization.
Yes, and then communication comes at sight, a sense of purpose, the roadmap, the focus, all that should be well aligned, I can imagine. Now, what were you thinking when Professor Debackere said his definition of the piece, the protection? Protection, proposition, he said, and profit. Those are also very important when it comes to a vivid ecosystem. Protection, when it comes to your findings, your innovations.
Yes, of course, we try to protect our findings using, for example, an extensive patent portfolio. So it's important if we develop something together with partners that we also try to protect this, basically to patent it, to be able to use it at least for a certain period of time exclusively. Profit is a very important one. We always think about the energy transition, that we need to go from where we are now to a climate neutral situation, but it also needs to be affordable. And if we want to mobilize a consumer, for example, to install thermochromic glazing products, thermochromic windows, we also have to explain that it's profitable for the consumer. If the consumer pays more than that he gets back actually as a value, then it will never fly. It has to also be economically feasible.
But that's why you were already talking about a return on investment in 7 years, although you're still prototyping. That's already a promise you do.
Yes, so we try to keep our developments as cost efficient as possible. So we know from simulations what the advantage is to an average household of using these coatings. So we know how much energy you save, how much cost you save. And we indeed strive to go to a payback period of 7 years, because we learned from photovoltaics, which is now roughly around that payback period, that's the payback period which is acceptable for people if they can then use the photovoltaic system for 20 or 25 years. And the same goes for our windows.
Great. Margot, some poll questions maybe, or questions from the audience? I'll leave it up to you.
Well, we have both, but let us start with some poll questions. And the first poll question relates back to ecosystems. Of course, we learned a lot about ecosystems in the last couple of minutes. And we as the organization from this event took ecosystems in a little bit of a broader sense. And we would like to know from our audience what ecosystems mean to you. And therefore, we want to ask you the question, and I hope we can all see the question also. Yes, we would like to ask you the question, with which of the following types of ecosystems do you personally feel most involved? Of course, these are slightly different types of ecosystems, not the economic ecosystems that we just learned about. So do you feel most involved in the ecosystem of your place of residence, which could be your village or maybe your street, with your friends and family, which is of course also some kind of an ecosystem, maybe your hobby or your sports club, or maybe your professional network, which could be the Brightlands Camelot campus or any other campus for that matter. Let's see how far we are in processing the results. We need a little
Maybe
bit
in the
more time.
meantime, I can ask Professor Debackere, because here you do mention the word network and eco. Well, a network or a system, of course, that's very different, isn't it? Professor
Yes,
Debackere.
because if you look at the network, of course, network is a flag that carries many different meanings. But networks are most often characterized by quite informal contacts, while an ecosystem is a system. This means that this system has boundaries towards the outside world. And it also means that this system is built on interdependencies. I think what Pascal just mentioned in terms of sustainable building and the different components and actors that have to join forces show what the system boundaries of such an ecosystem look like. And in this sense, it's much more tightly coupled than you have with a simple network. Exactly. This doesn't mean that network arrangements are not necessary and are not valid and are not useful, but an ecosystem goes beyond the network. It's a system integration of various components that make the different parts into one valid, innovative whole that can go to market and society.
Clear. Thank you so much. And there you have your answers.
Yes, in the meantime, we got some answers, and it's actually really nice to see that a lot of you seem to feel very involved in their professional network, which we learned now is actually just a part of an ecosystem. Also, of course, was to be expected, I guess, we see a lot of people answering friends and family, and also a few of us feel most involved with their place of residence. And that brings us actually to our next poll question, which is more related to the other topic we were discussing in this session. It relates back to the Sustainable Buildings Program and the pitch we just have seen that Daniel gave. And this is about the window glazing you have in your home. So again, we would like to know from you, what kind of window glazing do you have in your home? Is this single window glazing, double, maybe something more advanced than that? For example, the HR++ that Daniel mentioned. And I can very well imagine that you need to answer letter D, because I can imagine that you don't have a clue about it. Also, I guess there are some people that have a mix of types of window glazing. Maybe then you should pick the most advanced one. Yeah, let's see what comes out, and if there is some room in the market for the new windows, the new types of windows. Well, it's actually good to see that most of you don't have single glass windows anymore, just a very few. Most people seem to have double glass windows. Also, quite a lot have something more advanced, and I seem to be the only one who doesn't have a clue what type of windows we have in our home. Well, with that, Simone.
Thank you. Is there maybe one question left from the audience?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I almost forgot about that.
Yeah, maybe there's one.
Yeah. Well, we have actually several. This one is, I think, a nice one for Professor Debackere. It's from Huub, and the question is. Protection and valuation with multiple partners can be problematic. Who in an ecosystem typically owns the rights?
Yes, well, here I would like to refer to the European frameworks that exist, because the normal starting point is that everyone is entitled to the rights to the parts of the work that his organization or her organization has executed and done. That being said, it's a case-by-case exercise. It's not an easy exercise, but everyone comes to the table with certain rights, and you have to split that's why I was saying, and that's part of the credibility, you will have to split revenues in one way or another, meaning that the different partners around the table will have to be recognized for their inputs, for their contributions, for their part in sharing intellectual property with other partners. And that's where the ecosystem and the anchor organization in the ecosystem, so the central player in the ecosystem, have a central credible role to play to make sure that a distribution rule is designed where all partners can live and accept it. And once again, I know it's not an easy solution, but it also shows that if one of the partners tries to maximize his part of that game, it will probably be game over for the ecosystem. And that's something that we should keep in mind all the time when we want to build thriving ecosystems.
Okay, thank you so very much, Professor Debackere. Do you recognize this being the anchor organization, that you have to keep an eye on this?
Yes, so we very often organize also consortia around topics. So we do large projects where we try to get different partners together for certain developments. And then indeed, it's important to see that everybody gets a fair share of the development and that we come to these kind of an agreements. And indeed, if one partner wants to have everything, then it typically becomes quite difficult to proceed.
Yes, and then it could, like Professor Debackere says, be the end of an ecosystem.
Yep.
If you do not sort it out carefully. Well, thank you so much. Professor Debackere, thank you so very much from Belgium. It was an honor to have you with us here this afternoon. And Pascal, thank you so much as well. And ladies and gentlemen, maybe it's time for a short break. You need a coffee desperately, then go and grab one and come back within 5 minutes. See you in a short time. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you had enough time to grab a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, because we are going to continue the program of the partner event of the Brightlands Materials Center. And it is time to announce now, to introduce the third showcase of this afternoon, which is about lightweight automotive. Let's meet Amandine Codou. She is scientist, lightweight automotive. First a video and then a live presentation.
In the near future, European legislation will enforce car manufacturers to produce cars in such a way that a minimum of 85% by weight of the car should be recyclable. At Brightlands Materials Center, we are developing technology to recycle those car parts so the car manufacturers can comply to those new rules. An example of such part is this splash shield. Those parts are typically located under the vehicle's engine, and they prevent water or small objects to damage the engine of a car. Looking at its composition, it's composed of reinforced glass fiber embedded in polypropylene matrix, which makes it a thermoplastic composite. So one of the approach that we are following at the Brightlands Materials Center is to reuse or recycle those parts into what we call recycled long fiber thermoplastic, so re-LFT, and they typically take the shape of a granule. Looking at the different steps of recycling, the first one is the size reduction. So typically, we collect those parts, we reduce them in size in order to turn them into chips, looking like this, as you can see here. Those chips are then fed into an extruder, and at the die of this extruder, we collect strands, looking like that, and those strands are containing long fiber thermoplastic, so LFT, into it, and we pelletize typically those strands into pellets or granules, as you can see here. After opening those granules, we can injection mold them into new products or new parts. So those products can be from a lab scale, or they can be manufacturing scale. And if we stay in the automotive sector, typically we can really use those granules to produce similar parts. It can be a dashboard panel, but it can also be, if we overmold it, it could be a seat structure, for instance. So this whole process basically makes the recycling of such a part fully circular. As I just mentioned, there is a high need to work on recycling in the plastic industry. For instance, do you know when the end-of-life vehicle directive will be enforced? That's a trick question. Actually, it's already in force as of 2009. By means of amendments, the plastic industry is trying to creatively meet the 85% recycling target. For instance, the German automotive industry managed to get approved that when you reduce in size the plastic waste of a car and use it as a fuel for the cement industry, it is awarded as thermal recycling. However, with the new legislation and the new European Green Deal coming in force, it is expected that those type of creative solutions will not be allowed anymore, and the industry needs to find some alternatives in order to meet those new directives, which are going to come, well, before 2025. So looking at the splash shield that I introduced in the video, it's about 6 million of those parts which are discarded in the European Union every year. And looking at all the plastic of a car, it's more than 1 billion kilograms of material which needs to be recycled in order to satisfy those new directives. So having those numbers in mind, at Brightlands Materials Center, we developed a new innovative and pioneering technology in order to recycle material into a lightweight material that we call recycled long fiber thermoplastic, so in short, re-LFT. So due to its lightweight, it saves its material, and when the part is moving, it saves its energy, showing that the Brightlands Materials Center, with this re-LFT, is contributing to both the energy and the material transition. In the video, I showed some of the parts which can be developed in the automotive sector. And now I would like to show an example of part which is developed out of the automotive sector with our support. This is a valve handle. So as you can see on the picture, it's part of a so-called butterfly valve from which millions of parts are produced and used in the processing industry. This part shows some technical challenges, as it needs to have a high strength in order not to break when opening and closing the valve, but it also needs to be stable when exposed to the processing fluid. This part is currently being developed by our partner, Alligator Plastics. In the frame of the Field Lab recycling project, we are currently working on the development of more parts, which are unfortunately still confidential, and we are planning to show them to you at the next partner event. Last but not least, we are very proud to announce that the pilot scale extruder of our pioneering technology was delivered yesterday with a serious throughput from 5 to 100 kilograms per hour. This new technology will be ready to be licensed in the near future, showing that the Brightlands Materials Center is playing a true active role in the transition, and we are working on the recycling, and in case you have any question on this topic, please feel free to address them to us. Thank you all for your attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, passion and education, or dedication, I must say, real dedication, that's what Amandine Kodu is showing us here when it comes to lightweight automotive. You did a great presentation, Amandine, thank you so much. And with me here, good afternoon, gentlemen, I have Mark Huisman, welcome, Program Manager, Lightweight Automotive, Brightlands Materials Center, and Emmo Meijer, welcome, Emma. Emmo, you are, of course, we know you as chair of the top sector, chemistry, but also you have a leading role in ChemistryNL. We will talk about that later on. You are very involved in the EIT, the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. That's an integral part, I could say, of the EU program Horizon, the Horizon program. Now, Emmo, if we talk materials, let me put it this way. If we all strive for those enormous goals like sustainable society, circular economy, meeting climate goals, etc., do we emphasize enough on the role of materials?
No, to answer straight, no. I think materials and the impact of materials in terms of contribution to a sustainable society, I think is not really broadly acknowledged. And that has to do with our innovation policy in the Netherlands. Let's speak about the Netherlands.
Yes, let's start with the Netherlands.
Yeah, there we have the top sector policies in place. We have top sectors for almost every domain. Of course, this shifted to a more mission-oriented policy 2 years ago, and basically focused on the societal challenges. But materials is not very visible in this approach, and that's why we established this Materials Netherlands platform to make the potential impact of materials visible also in our innovation policies at the highest level.
In a way, it is amazing, Mark, because if we listen carefully to what Amandine was saying, she said time is over, time is out when it comes to extra amendments or creative solutions from the current industry to keep on going and doing the wrong things. We really must make that change, and we are trying to do our very best at the Materials Center to do so. Then how come we are not emphasizing well enough on materials? Because the solution lies for a great deal in materials.
Yeah, that is true. The challenge in getting the attention for materials is also that material is not just one thing; it's a lot of things, and it is also not material alone. It's a combination of the chemistry side of materials, the processing of it, the automation of it. So there is a number of industries involved to make these steps to get new materials implemented in a large scale. And that is also the way we build projects and collaborations, is combining different partners, large and small ones, in the value chain.
Okay. But then that means, Emmo, that they are at every agenda, in a way, materials, in those top sectors.
Yeah,
but if we do not pay attention...
Yeah, well, they are on every agenda, but a bit, I would say, hidden. And I think materials as such, which has historically shaped our society is built on materials, deserves a more prominent position, and making clear that there is a shiny future for materials innovations towards sustainability. And now it is a bit scattered among all the programs we see and the top sectors, but also at the European Union level. It is not really made as a very, I would say, an extremely strong domain in our innovation landscape.
Now, what is then the answer given by the ChemistryNL platform?
Now, what we did, we grouped together all the stakeholders in the first place, and there are many around in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
We have...
Why do you laugh? There are too many?
Because, yeah, maybe there are too many, but no, I can't say that, because, yeah, but it was a tremendous effort to get them together, because, you know, everybody has his program and so on, his own identity, these kind of problems. But we were successful in bringing them together and to develop, I would say, a common agenda. And that was a report we drafted the past few years. It was handed over also to the Dutch government and well received. Based on that, we are now preparing a proposal for the next round of the growth fund. Yeah? So that is really a materials effort, an effort from the strong community we have in the Netherlands. We have very strong academic groups. We have many spin-out startups. That's amazing to see that. And we have well-established companies and research institute. You heard about the TNO organization. So if you combine the efforts of all these major stakeholders, you are top-notch worldwide.
Yeah.
So,
but do we have a general focus among parties?
Well, maybe I can answer that from if you look at materials, and then it is good to reflect a bit on the number of players and the fragmentation there. If you look at the point of view of lightweight materials, composites, for example, traditionally Netherlands is very strong. And if you divide it into two polymer families, they say composites as thermoset resins. It's very old, already a big industry, and the newer side of it is thermoplastic polymers, where the Netherlands as a country has a lot of players, a lot of activities, and is basically front runner in Europe and the world. But it's also very innovative and small companies, and there these material agendas and also composite agendas, they help in putting together these companies and getting attention on the collaborations on a joint level.
Yeah, that could lead to a strategy. That you have a kind of a material strategy, or is that too high?
No, it can lead to a kind of material strategy, as you said. So focus on a couple of domains where we have really a strong position. Also, in terms of economical contributions. And we have a track record where we can be proud of. On this side, Dyneema was developed, the strong fiber. Aramid, Kevlar, whatever you name it, is a Dutch development. We have Claire, which is now used in aerospace. We have made a strong contribution to MRI equipment based on new materials for magnets. These are all breakthrough innovations with a global impact. So we can be proud of that. And if you look at the pipelines of companies, but also what's in the pipeline of research institute, we can expect many more of these breakthrough innovations in the Netherlands. So we can dominate the materials scene I think, with
Okay,
major development.
we can dominate, but then what is needed now?
What is needed is that we come together. And that's why I like the whole concept of the BMC, the Brightlands Materials Center, where you work in public-private partnerships, but playing the full piano. So that is from research to application. In the past, we had a more linear approach. So we had the academic groups working on their part of the work, and we had the industry. And well, the normal approach was that academic groups said, well, this is what we have invented. Who is interested? Yeah. And then
that's
the industry started.
Yeah.
Now you are more or less working in a collaborative fashion. So you're picking up the things much earlier, and you can work already on implementation, even if the research is not yet really done. So we are now more in what I call an iterative process. Sometimes in implementation, you face all of a sudden academic issues where you say, okay, this should go back to the lab table. But on the other hand, sometimes on the lab table, you do inventions where you say, okay, can be implemented very quickly. Yeah. And you've seen it now with the vaccine strategies last year. What it brings when people really work closely together, academic institutes and industries, then all of a sudden you can shorten times to implementation from 10 to 1 year.
Yeah. And then we can be leading in the material domain. Yeah. Marco, do we have questions from the audience?
Yes, we actually have some questions. I have one question from Kees, who actually posts kind of a statement and has a question with his statement. He says, the materials industry has migrated to a large extent to the Far East or to other continents, and he wants to know your opinion on what should we do to get it back?
First, is it true? And then, what should we do?
No, it's not for the, let's say, that's not the full picture. Of course, we know in solar panels we lost more or less the battle with the Chinese suppliers, but there's much more to do than just solar panels. You can also improve the efficiencies here. We have had the development here of a film to enhance the efficiency of solar panels. So there are many more things to do. And if we talk about the industrial scene in the Netherlands, it's very strong in coatings, for example. And coatings, I think, is a major part of the materials portfolio. So we have large companies. We have even also emerging companies on bioplastics, these kind of things. Many startups in energy materials, optical instruments.
But is there no reason to be afraid to lose them? Because that's a bit what Kees maybe was asking, that once...
No, it's not just a matter of, let's say, costs. It's also a matter of competencies. And I think what we can bring on the table as competencies and expertise in the Netherlands is extraordinary. And of course, we always face competition from other countries, but I think in the materials innovation, it is not really a battle of costs. It is really about, let's say, high-valued innovations, and I think that the price is there less important.
What do you think, Mark?
I agree. I agree with that statement. It is not about cost. It's also about the value and the added value that this combination of technologies and combinations of the competences and know-how we have with an automated environment can bring to real big steps in new developments. And I think there we can, in the Netherlands, but also in Europe in a little bit larger scale, can play a role. And it's not about the big volumes and cheap materials.
Okay. Marco, other questions?
Yes, I have a question for Mark, and it's actually it's really about the region. Mark, as a program manager of the lightweight automotive team, do you think that the province of Limburg plays a role in the automotive world?
Yeah,
nice one.
That is a real good question, especially if you look that there are not real big OEMs in the Netherlands. But if you look here at the region, it's definitely a central point in terms of chemistry, polymers, materials, and a lot of small companies that are very innovative. And if you look at then the material and energy transition, a lot of companies in this region are working on recycled materials, processes for that, equipment for that, and that is where we concentrate on and already have running activities with companies. And definitely that is an area where this ecosystem and the companies in this area contribute a lot.
Okay. What would you consider, Mark, as the major challenge to make transport in Europe more sustainable?
Yeah, that's a good question, because transport is more than automotive alone.
Exactly.
And I think it is a combination of optimizing the infrastructure to its different aspects. So rail, automotive, aircraft, use that one optimal per case. But now also it's moving masses from A to B, and to save energy, you want to reduce these masses. So, okay, one side you have the energy sources. There the trend to go electric is very clear. On the other side, it's moving mass from A to B. So the lighter you get, the less energy it costs, and that is where lightweight, new materials and new technologies play a role. And setting that up and scaling that up is a big challenge.
That's the major challenge.
That's the major challenge.
That's what would... Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, but the Materials Center is focusing on this one as well and
Yeah.
tries to get hold of this in one way or the other.
Yeah. One of a couple of activities we have is building up value chains to bring the partners together to kind of make these steps and combine the different technologies to scale that up to an industrial size to actually promise the solution and bring the solution to the market.
Well, this comes very close to the description of Professor Debackere to how to build an ecosystem also around a topic like you are just stating. Emmo, to finalize, if you look into the Brightlands Materials Center, how would you compare the impact BMC can have within the Netherlands and within Europe? What do you foresee for them? We heard Paul de Kromme also on behalf, he spoke of the province of Limburg. He said, well, we must make sure that it will grow, that it will become even stronger, and it's a long-term commitment. Yeah. Now, what is at the horizon?
And also referring to what Koen Debackere said, is it's all about, let's say, the ecosystem approach. So I see more and more that having impact on European Union level, but also on the national level, is if you are organized as an ecosystem. Mm-hmm. So even independent of the content, if you are not presenting yourself as part of an ecosystem, you get a less priority on approvals for your programs in terms of subsidies. And so I think BMC is part of an ecosystem, basically a triple helix ecosystem, but it's also based on this larger ecosystem as we have here. Yeah. I think that is differentiating from other expertise centers. Sometimes these centers have a more, let's say, single-focused approach, and here you talk about the whole spectrum, as I said before, of research to innovation in collaboration with all kinds of partners. Mm-hmm. And that's the strength and also the unique value of this BMC Center.
Yeah, and they maybe even could use that even more in the future.
Yeah, well, my issue with most of the things we do in the Netherlands, also in other areas, in other domains, is that we are too modest. So.
That's why we need you. As a chair from a top sector, that's why we need you as a program manager and a Mago
that's exactly why we
celebrate
Materials NL, so the Materials Netherlands, just to show what we can do about transformation of our science based on materials innovation. That's exactly the message.
Yeah, that's what we celebrate then.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It was great having you here this afternoon, Emmo Meijer. Thank you very much as well, Mark Huisman, for being with us. And we, ladies and gentlemen, we will continue our virtual lab tour because we have part 2 waiting for us.
Welcome back at the second part of our lab tour. We're standing here in front of building 24, where the labs of the circular packaging and the lightweight automotive program are located. Let's have a look inside. Hi, Jos.
Hi, Margot.
Can I interrupt you for a moment?
Yeah, of course, no problem.
Could you tell the viewers who you are and a little bit about your background?
Yeah, my name is Jos Linssen. I work now for 2 years at Brightlands Materials Center and had a background in chemical technology. I worked for more than 30 years for DSM, where I worked normally on plastic materials and thermoset composites. And that was also the reason why to come to the Brightlands Materials Center, because thermoset composites and thermoplastic composites are almost the same. And one of the major topics of our group is recycling of thermoplastic composites. If you look to, for instance, this material, this is a splash shield from a car. What this material is built up is from a polypropylene material, granules, and a glass mat in between. We would like to recycle these kind of materials, and we start with cutting these kind of bars out of it. From this part, we get our samples out of it, like this, and we can measure the properties of it. After that, we can try to start with the recycling of it. You see, Margot, from this big plate we're going to cut a smaller part out of it, which is coming from this part, and we try to feed it into the shredder to get smaller parts out of it.
Jos, I had some trouble understanding you in the shredder room. Could you please explain us again how it worked with the sieving and the shredding?
Yeah, from the shredding we got some big parts of material. And those are small parts, big parts in it. And these flakes we're gonna sieve in different fractions. Bigger parts, smaller parts, and even much smaller parts. And from these different fractions, we're gonna put in the injection molding machine. The flakes will now fall on a screw that is heated. The material will be melted until we get the melting temperature of our material. And then afterward it will inject it into a cold mold where the material is frozen, and afterwards we get really nice tensile bars out of it. Now you see now we have out of the machine come injection molding bars. And these injection molding bars, we can go to the tensile machine and we measure here the properties of it. And afterwards we're going to compare it with the original part and hope that we have the same properties as the original one.
Thank you, Jos. That was very interesting. I'm going to leave you to your work again. And we're going to continue and see if we can find also one of our colleagues from the Circular Packaging program. Hey Rick.
Hello Mo.
Could I have a moment of your time?
Of course.
Can you tell the viewers who you are and what's your role within the Circular Packaging program?
I am Rick Leuven. I work several years in the processing world of thermoplastics. More than a year I work for Brightlands Materials Center. At the beginning I started working for the lightweight automotive program. And now at the end of the last year we start working for the new program Circular Packaging. Within Circular Packaging we work for, we want to recycle several kinds of films. And the patchway, that one, is normally used in the food industry. I want to develop a new patchway with 100% PET based, and it is easy to recycle to new patchways and also for other applications.
Okay, and what do I see over here?
We use this patchway and we want to recycle this one. And we put it in the shredder and then we get small pieces out of it. And then we can feed them easily in the small extruder. This is a very small extruder. It has 2 screws inside and it processes continuously films. If it's cooled down and calendar between those 2 walls, it winds up at the right side. And if we have the film, we can see if the film is good enough. We can check if the thickness is homogeneous. And we can measure the tensile strength, the shear strength, and then we can compare it with other recycled films.
That was very interesting. Thanks for your time, Rick.
You're welcome.
I'm going to leave you to your work again.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. And with that, we end our lab tour. Back to the studio.
Margot, thank you so very much for guiding us through the lab.
Yeah, it was a great pleasure to introduce our audience to 4 of our R&D colleagues and to guide them through our lab facilities. And for those of you who have attended one of our previous editions of the partner event, you know that normally when there's not a pandemic, we are very happy to guide you around in real life and also to let you in person exchange thoughts with our colleagues. So I would like to ask you to please, if you still have any questions, please don't let the digital character of this tour hold you back in asking them. And please post them in the chat, and we can also, of course, redirect our questions to our R&D colleagues.
Thank you very much for this invitation, Mago. That is great. Now it's already time for our last, number 4, the showcase when it comes to circular packaging. And we are going to meet in a video Carolie Buitenhuis. She's business developer, circular packaging, and then later on stage live here at the center court of the Gemmelot campus, we have then Harold Gankema.
We have a very nice collection of supermarket products here. Meat, shampoo, bread, salads, soup. All these products have one thing in common. They're all packed in plastics. And there are several reasons why these products are packed in plastics. For instance, to keep your food fresh and hygienic, or for transportation, to be able to bring the product from the supermarket to your home, or to be able to store the product in your kitchen, or, for instance, to put instructions on the packaging for how to use the product or to describe its contents. But after use, the plastic packages are all completely useless, and then you throw them away. And you do hope that they will be recycled. But in all fairness, not all these packages are recycled, or they only get downcycled. The reason is that most of the retail packages are very complex products. Let me give you an example. For instance, this soup pouch. This pouch exists out of many different layers and out of many different plastics. One of the layers is to keep the oxygen out of the package, another to keep the moist in the package. One layer is to be able to print on the package, and also one to be able to seal the package very tight together. The European Plastic Pact demands that all packaging has to be recycled in 2025, which means that the packaging, like these ones, have to be redesigned in a way that it can be sorted and recycled. At the Circular Packaging program of Brightlands Materials Center, we work on these complex packages that currently have no value, and we want to make them valuable again. For example, we redesign the polymers of packaging materials to become recyclable. And we also improve the quality of the recycled materials so that it can be reused for new applications.
As Carolie just mentioned, the Circular Packaging program focuses on plastic packaging which has no recycling value. In the next few minutes, I want to introduce to you one of the most challenging recycling challenges in plastic packaging, which is the PET tray. You all know a PET tray. In front of me, I have a few examples, which I just bought from the supermarket. This one is filled with salads, and one with fruit. And they also have one which was filled with meat. You all recognize them because you will all have them in your own refrigerator. To give a few figures to illustrate the size of the issue we are talking about at this moment. In Europe, about 900 kilotons of PET trays are manufactured on an annual basis. This comes down to about 75 billion of these trays. For the Netherlands, that is 3 billion trays. When you divide this amount of trays by the number of inhabitants, then you come to a figure of about 175 trays per person per year which need to be disposed. So in fact, almost every other day you throw away one of these trays. Then by throwing them away, you still feel quite good, because you believe when you throw them in your PMD bag or in your plastic waste container that these trays will be recycled. But unfortunately, that is not the case. These trays, the vast majority of these trays end up in as it is called so nicely, energy recovery, which is simply another word for saying that it will be burned to get the energy out of it. Why are these trays not being recycled? Now, there are a number of reasons for this. The main reason is the composition of this tray. The tray consists of many different components. You have the tray itself, you have a lidding film, you have an inlay, you have a label on top of it, and sometimes even components which you don't even see, like barrier coatings or barrier layers. We at the Brightlands Materials Center have chosen this PET tray as one of our most important use cases, as we think this tray urgently needs to be redesigned from a circularity point of view. We believe that these trays can be made recyclable and sortable. The approach we are following is the design for recycling rules. We want to simplify the design of all the components in such a way that all the components are made of only one material type, which is PET. But to make this all happen, we have to work together very closely with all the stakeholders in the value chain. And we at the Brightlands Materials Center are dedicated to play a leading role in this materials transition. Thank you very much for your attention.
And again, a great presentation, this time from Harold Gankema. Great, thank you so much, Harold. Marnix, if I combine now two things. Emmo Meijer was just stating that being situated at the Brightlands Gemmelot campus is of great advantage. Now, how do I combine this great advantage when it comes to the transition in finding solutions for circular packaging? Well, how do they relate?
Well, it's maybe good to say that it's really a challenge, because to change the package technically is one thing, but to get it going in the whole society is another thing. So this cannot be done by an, let's say, R&D institute as ourselves alone. So we need to do that together. And in fact, you need to do it including your whole society. So I'm extremely happy that this region, the province of Limburg, actively decided to step into the circular economy with its policy. And that together in this region we have declared to be a European circular hub, which is basically the whole region acting together to get this circularity going.
But that makes then your research and development easier when it comes to redesign packaging?
Absolutely. We need to work together with all these aspects. So we don't have expertise in washing, for example, but our colleagues in Chile do have expertise in washing. So we work together. The colleagues in ABBM work with biopolymers. So we need to work together with these expertise, with industrial partners in the value chain to really see it happen.
Would you say that you have all partners required to finally develop this material solution for circular packages, that you have them on site?
No, we don't have all parties on site. So we have a lot of expertise, in particular in material and in chemistry, but of course the brand owners and the retailers are everywhere in the world. So we need to work with them, and they work differently in different countries. So we reach out also outside the region, in Europe and in the world, to work together with the important players in the value chain, including the brand owners and the retailers, extremely important.
That makes me think of what Professor Debackere said, grow globally at the end. That must be the aim at the very end. If not, then there's no much use. Now, Peter, coming back to what Koen Debackere told us about the building blocks to construct a vivid ecosystem, did you feel comfortable that you say, well, this is exactly what we have in place here? And we are that anchor organization with the Materials Center?
I think we are, but also it's important to stress that we are not a goal on ourselves. It's because we see these large transitions that society needs, and that we can play a role, and that we can play a role in connecting parties that normally maybe are not so well connected yet, and that is where we try to play in that sense an orchestrating role and be that anchor organization in the middle, and to provide programs where we look at the needs, from the end consumers, but also the needs for industry to have, of course, interesting business cases and sustainable solutions, and to connect that all together throughout the value chain. And that's really what we like to do, and what thrives us, and what gives us energy.
Yeah, great. And Marnix, when we started 2 hours ago or so, and you said, well, we are recently young, we just are 6. In a way, you are a new kid on the block, one could say. At the other hand, the challenges you are facing, there is a tremendous urgency when it comes to the packaging or the lightweight automotive, the EU legislation and the new rules, the Green Deal, etc. It's all on our way. We know exactly what we are heading for. Now, does that make you feel comfortable or a little bit stressed, like, okay, now how are we going to cope?
Well, the urgency is clear, and we are young, but a major part of our work is also to connect parties, and we are here in a very strong regional ecosystem with a lot of expertise. So we don't have to invent everything ourselves. We have to connect and work together. And in a sense, it's also good that there is a common challenge in society and in industry. So in particular for packaging, as you already said, the challenges are so nearby. There's great urgency and great need. Yeah. And we really feel in our short being that we can play an important role in connecting people and making what can be done with materials actually work in practice together with all these parties in the value chain.
Yeah, great.
But also, I guess that being young in society and looking for the solutions for the future is also to get young people involved. Yeah. And that's also what I like about this, and you've seen a number of people here and in the videos, young people that have ambitions, they recognize the needs of society, and they're really motivated to work on that. So to work that on that topic in an inclusive way and with young people is very exciting as well.
I think that's what we felt this afternoon as well. I'm going to Margot. Yes. Questions, poll questions, audience questions?
Well, I think we are now going to the last couple of poll questions that we have for you. And the first of the two relates back to the topic of recycling of packages. Of course, we just heard Karoli and Harold mention and explain to us the issues that are going on with the recycling of the packages as they are now. And we would also like to hear from you, what do you feel would be good solutions to this problem of packaging recycling? So which of these solutions do you support most? The first would be to put a tax on non-recyclable packaging. The second one would be to help you make a good choice by means of a sustainability label. The third one would be to have only regional products in the supermarket. And the last one is for the people who think that maybe recycling is not the most important thing here, but that food safety, freshness, and your own convenience are more important. So which of these answers suits you best? We're very curious to hear from you in what way you are willing to contribute, perhaps yourself, to this problem, or whether you want a bit more guidance in making a right choice. Let's see if we already have some answers. I see also some answers coming in on the chat. Well, it's quite late in the program, but of course, if you want your vote to be incorporated, please use the voting button and not the chat. And let's see, how far are we? Oh. Yes, there we have the answers from our viewers. Oh, well, it's quite surprising, to be honest. I see that a lot of you feel that a tax on non-recyclable packaging would be a good thing.
Well, and then use the tax, Margot, for the research and development. That would be great. Peter, that's a good idea, isn't it?
Well, it's not mainly directly, but yes, I guess that that the carrot and the stick is a principle that moves industry or value chains to a certain direction. So, from government, if you want to steer things in a certain way, that could be one of the parts, and also the audience believes that could help. But of course, it should be in balance in that sense.
Yeah. Well, great.
We have one more question for you, the final poll question, and it's a kind of summarizing. Of course, today we heard a lot about Brightlands Materials Center, 3 main focus areas, which are mobility, built environment, and packaging. And well, to conclude this poll session, I would like to hear from you. Which of these 3 topics do you consider most important for the region of Limburg? So would that be mobility, the built environment, packaging, or maybe you think they're all equally important? In that case, you go for option D. And
okay, Marnix, what would you have answered here? Tell me.
Well, probably the answer is 3, because the answer is D, sorry, because they are all equally important for society.
Is it true, equally? Yeah.
Including also Limburg. So then I consider Limburg as part of the world, and these are the major societal transitions taking place these days. So I would probably have voted for D. Oh, you don't like that?
No, because it's also a little bit politically correct, isn't it? Marnix, what would you have said?
All of the above.
All of the above. A, B, and C. Yeah, that could have been something. Well, there you go.
There we are. Well, I think that A, B, and C are slightly, well, almost equal.
Yeah.
With a slight, well, bit higher percentage for the built environment, but the major part of our viewers seem to think that all these topics are equally important. And personally, I have to agree with that. And with that, I give the word back to Simone.
Thank you so very much, Margot. Yeah. Well, these are the 3 topics, of course, where you are emphasizing on in the Brightlands Materials Center, and that's what I assume you will continue to do.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the course that we have set. We will continue, because these are the major, let's say, societal challenges, the energy transition and the materials transition for us. So these topics are core to achieve these goals. And I think we will focus on what you already heard today in the program, that we will move to really a pilot scale activities to show, to validate our innovations to be working really in industrial practice. So that will be the next step, to really validate these and implement these in industrial practice.
Is that what we would be offered if we join next year for our partner event, and then hopefully physically we will meet? Then that's the phases where we are at. That's what we are then.
Well, then of course we are steps closer to the implementation of what we foresee, and the demonstrators will be bigger. The product development will be steps further, and I guess then we can show and prove that actually the solutions that we work on with our partners will help in getting these goals to be covered.
Yeah. Important, Marnix, is, I think, by words of Paul de Krom, CEO from TNO, that he said, we are here to stay, because what we are doing here, the result you are working at, we need a long-term commitment. If not, it's all for nothing. I mean, then we better stop today. Now, I can imagine that it's very important if that is stated by a CEO from TNO, as well as, well, unfortunately he was not able here, but for sure he would have stated the same, the regional minister from the Provincie Limburg. I can imagine that that gives you strength, that gives you also confidence.
Absolutely, because this is something that needs a longer-term investment. So you need to really stay the course. So I'm very happy with the statements of Paul de Krom. Also very happy with the, let's say, the policy of the regional government that goes into this direction, goes into the direction of sustainability and circularity. So this combination of factors make this this enterprise extremely promising, I would say.
Now, to finalize, managing directors of the Brightlands Materials Center, what would you ask or propose to your partners being with us today?
Well, I hope that we have been inspiring today, and that they recognize the topics that we work on, and that they also recognize solutions that we work on that could be beneficiary to them. And we are very much open to engage with these partners and with the industry in working together in this ecosystem along the learnings of Koen Debackere, and to be successful as a value chain, as society, and in getting more sustainable.
Yeah, great. Final word, Manix, for you.
Well, we had in our last partner events, not last year because we had to cancel it 1 week after the corona pandemic started, but before that, we have 2 themes that I like to bring back into in the remembrance. And the one was, we are calling for a sustainable world. That was one. And the second one is, let's innovate together. So I'd like to invite all the viewers that we are very open to collaborate with you in the value chain to see how together we can make this world a better place.
Yeah, great. Well, I think you did a great job by showing these showcases, by bringing them on stage here today, but also that you gave us the possibility to look into your kitchen, that you guided us through the virtual lab, and that we met your young and ambitious and dedicated people, like you say. That's what you appreciate so much, being here with a young team who really are convinced being able to change the world in a better direction. Thank you so very much. Emma, thank you so much. Great to have you as a co-host.
It was a very nice experience, and of course I would also like to thank the viewers for your very active participation in the polls and in the chat, and also for asking so many questions that we will of course answer also after the event.
Thank you very much. Great. Well, ladies and gentlemen, and I do thank you very, very much for attending this partner event 2021, which is still a little bit under the COVID-19 umbrella, but that will pass. That will pass, that is for sure. So next year we will meet in person, and then they will have some new revelations, that's for sure. And hopefully you will be joining in, because that's that great, great invitation done to you today as attendants. Join the Brightlands Materials Center. Thanks for attending. See you next year. Bye.